Are you struggling to keep up with boxing? Download the Boxing Showtimes app for the latest fight schedules, full undercards, boxer stats, news, and real-time updates. It's more than just an app, it's the boxing community you want to join.
Boxing King Media, powered by BYD. We're here with Nick Manners at the Freedom Boxing Club in Lindum, right next to a prison. And it's quite interesting being next to a prison with speaking to someone who believes strongly in helping the youth and transforming people's lives. We're right next to...
I was in there, to be fair.
Where?
Yeah, years ago I was in there, you know what I mean? Got kicked out as well,
Okay.
unfortunately. Okay.
All right. I didn't even know you was in there.
Yeah. Well, that's all covered in the book. Front. Got to get through that.
He slipped it straight in.
Sorry about that. You know, we'll just slip this one in. Many experiences throughout my life, and I'm fortunate enough to be here. God willing, God give God praise. I'm fortunate enough to be still here and able to give over my experiences and that in a book that I've written. It's called Front. Got to get through this in conjunction with 619 Design. Other than that, I say thank you very much for the opportunity to interview.
Just let us know, Nick, where can they buy the book from?
They can buy it direct from me. They can get in touch with me, or they can get it on Amazon. Fortunately, it's been a #1 bestseller for a while, for a week, which is a long time in the literary world, as they say. I had my esteemed colleagues, Mr. Steve Bunce at #2, Mr. Frank Warren at #3, Mr. Barry Hearn at #4. For a brief moment, I was #1.
That's some achievement in itself. But yeah, you know, there's a lot of boxing fans out there that like to read about stories from the past, present, and nothing beats the stories from the past, because that's where you get to really find out the history of boxing and how things happen behind the scenes, all that kind of stuff. And stories sometimes get lost. And obviously, Nick, I know you speak from the heart, so if people want to read Nick Manners' Front, forwarded by Joe Calzaghe, an interesting book to definitely delve into.
Well, it's very different. Well, I don't want to sell it because it sells itself. It's a good book. The foreword's by Joe Calzaghe, who I had the fortune, some might say misfortune, to box early on in his career. From my point of view, it was a real honour to be in with a real classy guy, fast guy, intelligent guy, and thankfully still a good friend.
Good stuff. I want to speak to you about a couple of boxing topics, Nick. I know you're close to Ishmael Davis. You know, you've been with him when, you know, he started off his career. Just want to get your opinions on, you know, his recent fight with Bahuchok. Not an easy name to pronounce, but a big puncher. He took the fight at last minute, and there were some people saying, you know, he shouldn't have took the fight. But obviously, there's the money aspect of it and potentially securing his future in the short term, you know, to build his career, all that kind of stuff. So, just want you to give us a bit of an insight into Ish, because I know you've known him since youth, and whether it was the right decision to take that fight.
Personally, I think it was a fantastic decision. I've heard this quote, "Dare to be great." Now, if you dare to be great and you've got no substance and no real form to say that you're potentially going to be great, don't bother. But, you know, if you believe yourself, and Ishmael's a tough kid, he's a hard kid, he's a talented kid, he's got the athletic ability, the agility, and he had the opportunity. And for the first 3 or 4 rounds, he was well and truly in that fight. Now, if he can transfer them first 3 and 4 rounds over a 12 rounds distance, Ishmael Davis is going to be a hard act to beat I'd say on a domestic and European level, because when you get to the world level, that's where the real difference is made. But I'd say well done to Ishi for taking that opportunity, because he's a good kid. He's been around, a lot of people have known him around Leeds for a long time, and to tell you the truth, for many years we was all disappointed because we could see the potential that he had, but he wasn't fulfilling those gymnasium obligations that let you know that he's on the right track. But you know something, he stayed with it. He stayed loyal to his friends and his trainers, Keith Walton, Justin Newell, Mark Bateson, who's always been a stalwart of Leeds boxing. I've got to give him a shout. He's always turned around and made sure that the small hall shows are well represented in Leeds. But Ishi, he did the right thing. You've got to take on these big guys. If you don't have a go, you'll never know. And there's nothing like regret for a boxer. You've got to fight, you've got to have a go. He did really well. He made that Bumacek, I'm going to call him Bumacek, he made him miss and look a little bit pedestrian at times. And you couldn't tell who was the champion from who was the challenger, really and truly. And I think Ishi's got a good a good opportunity now to, with the financial security that he's got, he can invest his money and not worry about training, not worry about bills. So what he should be able to do is now concentrate, step down a couple of levels, come back down to Euro domestic level, have a few confidence builder fights and that to make him feel like a winner again, because at that level, when you're getting bust up by them guys, sometimes it can do one of two things. It can disorientate you, it can disillusion you, but what he knows now is that he's in good company and he can compete. He can compete. Now he's just got to get the strategies right and keep moving forward. Leeds is proud of him. Just let us say Leeds is proud of him. We're proud of him.
Some lovely words there. Any particular short story you could share about Ish from his, maybe from the, just to kind of show people where he was at and how he turned it around?
I think enough's been said about is his, to be fair, enough's been said about is his background and that, because you know something, that background is exactly that. It's in the background. So what I'd rather stress on is that Ishii is now a confirmed athlete, a confirmed boxer, a well-respected, well-regarded fighter. So his past is just that, his past. And I'd like to concentrate on him being looked at as a credible role model for so many of the youths in and around Leeds and nationally now. I wish him all the best. I'm not going to give you no short stories, because them stories are in the past and I think that's where they should stay. Just like I've tried to do with this book. Whatever you do negatively, you can always come back positive. You know what I mean? Just make sure that you don't do nothing too terrible that people can't believe in you and dream with you.
Yeah, I think the point I wanted to raise was like sometimes it can, because there'll be kids out there probably doing the same stuff he was probably used to get up to, like, you know, whether he's messing around in the gym, not putting the work in, all that kind of stuff, and it shows how you can just, you know, change things around. Move it.
Let me just say something. To be fair, I've got loads of people asking me, Nick, is she your son? You know what I'm saying? Listen, I know he's handsome, but he's not that handsome yet. You know,
I met his dad.
his dad's cool, man. Me and his dad used to hang around together. Matthew, he's a good guy, credible guy. You know what?
Old school OG.
Old school OG, you know what I mean? Oh, we used to laugh. I could tell you stories about him, but I won't. You know what I mean? We had some good times. But you know something? What I'll turn around and say is this. Ishi is a product, unfortunately, is a product of the inner city environments and that. But you know what it is? A lot of these kids need to understand that, look, there's no point in us trying to force and tell you what to do and that, because you're going to do what you want. But depending on what you want to do as an end result, if you want to sit down with your family, if you want to turn around and sit down and relax, whether you've got a penny or a pound in your pocket, the thing is, if you can sit down with your family and relax and grow organically, grow properly with your family, you don't need to be doing the badness you're doing. Don't follow people. Follow your own lead, because I'll tell you something, when you go into court, let me tell you something, you might have a co-accused, but it's you yourself who's going to be sentenced, you yourself. And if you can't handle it, you know what I mean, don't bother doing it. You know, what I turn around and say is there's so much potential for scope out there, so much potential for the boxers. You don't have to be gangsters, you know what I mean, because believe it or not, if you're very good at what you do, so many people look up to you and admire you. And you know something, you can turn around and influence how they go about their business. You don't have to be, everybody used to have this impression that boxers are big and hard. No, they're not. Boxers are very sensitive people. And really and truly, we all just want to live. We all just want to get by. And hopefully, Ish's story will be able to influence quite a few people. I've got my hand on your leg for about 3 minutes and I apologise.
I was feeling a bit awkward, thinking, when's he going to move it? I'll just stay quiet.
And I'm like, how do I move my leg? Respect, Joe. Listen, I thank you very much for having a short chat with us and that, you know what I mean? Leeds has got some real good guys on the way. I'm quite surprised that I haven't heard about, there's a kid called Kobe McNamara, I think it is. I ain't heard too much of him. I don't know if he's gone with Matthew Macklin or whatever, you know what I mean? But he looked a hot one. I'd like to say congratulations to Josh Warrington on the birth of his son. That's brilliant. He's always wanted a little boy, you know what I mean? So good luck to him on that, and all the best. And all the best for a fantastic 2025 to everybody.
Brilliant. And before I go, I've got to speak to you about the Tyson Fury fight. How did you score it?
Let's be truthful about it. I scored it 3 rounds up for Alexander Usyk. A lot of people forgot the fact that he was consistently working. Every time Tyson Fury threw two punches that connected, Usyk could throw 3 or 4 of which 3 would connect. And everybody keeps on forgetting about that backhand to the body that was consistently going in. That's a scoring point. You know what I mean? I had no arguments at all with Usyk getting that decision. None at all. Although I didn't want him to get that decision. I was totally against that. You know what I mean? I wanted Tyson Fury to win. And I think I'm a little bit too patriotic when it comes to British boxing, you know what I mean? I want the British guy to win first and foremost. But I think what you've got to remember is that lifestyle. Doesn't matter what anybody says to me, your lifestyle will dictate what you do and how far you can go. And unfortunately, Tyson Fury, I think, is a beautiful person. You know what I mean? I've got pictures in my gym of him looking after my son Marcel when he was like 8 years old, and that was going to the championships with Hughie Fury and that. And I don't know if you know that, notoriously, there's always trouble kicking off in them northwest Manchester and all that. There's always trouble kicking off. And I was helping Hughie Fury at the time. And he was, incidentally, Hughie Fury was trained by me at the time. Conor Lofthouse was trained by my brother Colin. And they got to the finals of the Northwest and that. So Colin was in one side, I was in the other side. And fortunately for Colin, Hughie got robbed. I'll always say that, you know what I mean? Hughie got jobbed. But there was a bit of a kick-off that kicked off between the crowds and this, that and the other. And I'm looking around for my son, my little 8-year-old son, and I see Tyson Fury with him in his arms running out the door, and I'm like, what's going on? He's like, it's all right, you concentrate on him. I'm like, and from then, I've always had a love for Tyson. You know, I've always had a love for him. I know he swears, I know he's a bit uncouth, I think he's a bit laddish and that, and I'm not down for that, but I think I know the real him, and he's a loving man. He's a loving family man, and he has to put on that bluster which sells tickets, which motivates him, which gets him up and that, you know what I mean? Unfortunately, I think his legs have gone and he's done. I'd love to see him finish off with a final flurry against Anthony Joshua. I think we deserve that. I think if we don't get that, I think that says a lot about them two themselves, because if them two will ride off into the sunset without actually giving us that fight that they could have given us over the years, I think I'm going to be very disappointed in that, you know what I mean, because we all love a British blockbuster.
Just want to ask you, Nick, about, you said his legs are gone. When I spoke to Usyk after the fight, and he specifically said that Tyson Fury gave him the 24 hardest rounds of his career, harder than AJ, harder than anyone else as he's fought. And we saw the scorecards. The first fight, there was 1 round in it. This one, people are saying 2, maybe like you said 3, but 2 was a consensus amongst all the judges. So to lose that narrowly against an all-time great, does that really mean your legs are gone, or are we just looking for reasons, or what do you think?
You know what it is? I think what we've got to do is, as well, we've got to start remembering eras. Let's not say all-time great. He's very, very good for this era, and this era is quite, come on, you've got to admit, it's quite a weak era. They're competitive within each other, but the standard is quite low, in my opinion. I think the standard is low. So when you get 2 guys who are very technically gifted, like Tyson Fury and Alexander Usyk, they can tend to cancel each other out. But at the same time, I regard Usyk as a very, very talented consummate professional who actually just does his job. And he's very fortunate that he's in an era where a lot of the other heavyweights are flawed. You know what I mean? They're not as good as they should be. They're not as consistent as they should be. They're not as tough as they should be. They're not as strong as they should be. They all seem to be on the same kind of level. And instead of it being about being the best, a lot of the time now it's about being the most marketable. I'm not knocking them because they have to do what they have to do. I'm more looking forward to the next generation of heavyweights coming through and see how they go, see how the Moses Tuma goes, see how David Adelaide goes, see how Matty Harris goes now that he's with Peter Fury. Talking of the Fury, I'm very disappointed that Hughie Fury isn't pushing and kicking down doors to get in the heavyweight mix, but I don't know if he's got illness or whatever, you know what I mean? I think he's had a few medical issues and that, which is such a shame because he's the one that I thought he was capable. He's brave enough, he's fought everybody, he's fought some really good guys. I was there when he boxed Joseph Parker, very unlucky to lose. I was there when he boxed Povetkin, very unlucky again, just a bit inexperienced, a bit cautious. If you could just inject a bit of Tommy Hearns into Huey Fury, it'd be a nightmare.
Just, I've got one question for you on Usyk. You know, we went off track.
Yeah.
Does anyone beat Alexander Usyk from this current crop of heavyweights if he carries on fighting?
Yeah. Daniel Dubois kicks his ass, man. You know what I mean? I'm telling you, you know what it is? I've been having a debate on one of the groups that I've been on, and I turned around and says, listen, whether you want to call it ADHD, this, that, and the other, whatever you want to call it, listen, in our culture, there's something that we call tick and dum. You know what I mean? It's not dumb as in his academia. What I'm saying is, you know, when somebody's that, they just don't even recognize the thumps that are coming in the head. You know what I mean? Derek Chisora, tick, dum. You know, I'm tough. You know what I mean? The tough kids, but they don't recognize pain. You can hit them with a donkey kick and they're still going to look at you as if you tickled them with a feather. I think Daniel Dubois has an absolutely fantastic, because Daniel Dubois is a natural big heavyweight. Whereas, and he's still got the enthusiasm to fight. Whereas, for me, Tyson Fury hasn't got the enthusiasm to fight. He's got the enthusiasm to win. He wants to win, but I don't think he's got it to push it in his body. Moses Atumu, not quite experienced yet. Who is there? I don't know any of the other international heavyweights, because at the end of the day, we seem to be being flooded with everything British. You know what I mean? Listen, I'd love to talk to you again, but I know that you've come here initially to talk to Jimmy, and I'll talk for England and that. You know what I mean? But thank you very much for plugging the book. Thank you very much for at least talking to me. You know what it is? From the most handsome. Look at that. Listen, you had AJ, but before AJ, look at that. You had the manners.
What I'm going to do is I'll put the link up for that book in the comments. If you could send me the link, I'll put the link up. Nick, pleasure speaking to you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for dropping some wisdom and knowledge.
You've got one of the best boxing voices that I hear at the moment. It's calm, it's concise, it's all right. It's a pleasure to meet you. All right, again, touch me.
Listen, I got a question for you. Where can discipline take you? Discipline points you toward your goals.